Creative people are people who break rules. When I came to Dallas and I started pastoring in Dallas, and I set this church up and started preaching in this church, and I had 1,500 people to join the first Sunday. And within a year, I was up to 10,000 members, and people in the city came out and told me, "You can't do that in Dallas." And I said, "I didn't know it." And as long as you don't know it, you can do it. But the moment you start knowing what you can't do and what you can't have and what you can't be, that's the moment you are incarcerated to the rules around you. I can't tell you how many pastors tell me, "Oh, you don't know the spirit of Chicago. You don't know the spirit over here. You don't know New York. You don't know." Anytime you hear people telling you what you don't know, they have bought into the rules and they live within the limits. But if you are really going to do something awesome, you have got to color. I know your first grade teacher's going to hate me for this, but you got to color outside the lines. You got to be prepared to break some rules. You got to be ready to go where other people haven't gone before. You got to be willing to do something that looks wild, that looks crazy, that looks different. You must be a rule breaker. And I hate to shock you, but you are praising a Jesus who was a rule breaking Jesus. Healing people on the Sabbath day, eating without washing their hands, walking through the fields pulling corn down on holy days. Religious people hated him because he broke the rules. You cannot be a trendsetter if you're always traceable. You've got to be somebody creative enough to break the rules. We have the cotton gin because Eli Whitney broke the rules. Are you hearing what I'm saying? We have the peanut because Booker T. Washington broke the rules. Whenever you break the rules, you find out what else it could be. Have you got some rules around you that define, I'm just not like that. That's just not how I am. My family isn't like that. Oh, it's just not me. I've always been quiet. I've always been loud. I've always, shut up! Break the rules. If you break the rules, your money is on the other side of the rules. Yes, your opportunity's on the other side of the rule. Your husband is on the other side of the rule. You will never get anywhere staying inside of the lines. It's time to break the rule. They don't write books about people who don't break rules. They don't study you in history books if you play by the rules. You got to be able to sit when they're trying to drag you away and stand when they're trying to get you to sit down. You'll never change anything till you break the rule. Ask Rosa Parks about breaking rules. You got to break some rules or you'll never see a change. I want to provoke you to get up off your seat of do nothing and make 2014 the year that you are going to break. Oh, I can't buy a house. Nobody in my family owns any property. Break the rule. Oh, I can't go to college. None of my father didn't go. My mama didn't go. My sister didn't go. Break the rule. These rules are stopping you from discovering what else you can be. How you have defined yourself stops you from exploring yourself. How you have defined yourself stops you from exploring yourself. I couldn't talk in front of people. It was a rule. Standing in front of people made me nervous. When I first started trying to do it, I was shaking so bad that you thought I was sick of palsy. I used to have to come early in the service and have them adjust the microphone, and I put my hands behind my back so that you wouldn't see my hands shaking trying to hold the microphone. But look at what was on the other side. I want to know what is on the other side of your fear. You'll never know. You'll live and get old and die and miss the life that Jesus came to give you simply because you are not willing to break the rules. If I'm talking to somebody, say something to me. Now, let's model creativity once again. Our model says that you need to challenge your perception. And here comes her escort to take her where she has never been before. And it all begins when you challenge your perception. Your perception can block in your creativity. We get used to observing things in a particular way based on our interests, needs, biases, values, and past learning. People with strong perceptual sets are prone to quick decisions and conclusions rather than looking for alternatives. You don't look for alternatives because you think that the way you perceive it is the only way it is. If there were one thing that has destroyed more marriages than anything else, it is that point right there. To think that your perspective is the only way to look at it. It's what limits you from seeking other perceptions of your situation. Yeah. To perceive that you know how your child is stops you from looking any deeper to see them in light of a different perspective. I am saying to you that you need a different perspective on your situation. Because when you get a different perspective on your situation, you get a different perception of how to deal with that situation. Perspective, perception. It depends on my perspective, my perception. The room looks this way if I look over here. But if I get over here and change my perspective, I look at the same room and get a different perception. Wonder if your narrow-minded perspective is affecting your perception of your situation. And I'm challenging you to explore looking at it again. Look at it again. Look at the budget again. Go back and stare at it. Lay it all out in front of you and look at it again. Look at your situation. Write it all down and look at it again. There is something else to be seen in what you see. I am challenging your perception. If I can get the idol of your opinion to fall off the throne, you could have a new life in your old house. If you will dethrone your opinion, you could have a new life in your own house. I'm wondering if your perception of your job is making you miserable. Because if I remember correctly, there was a time you were singing about it, happy about it, shouting about it. You're at the same location with the same people. Some of you have even gotten a couple of raises, but because your perception has changed, your perspective of what used to be a blessing now becomes horrible. Have you ever seen people who didn't appreciate you until somebody else wanted you? Keep going. Just sit there. Sit there. I'm going to teach this till you get it. And all of a sudden, when somebody else comes along and starts paying you some attention, all of a sudden they get a whole different, I once was blind, but now I see. Just something to think about. Just something to think about. I got a diagram now I want you to take a look at. And just look at that and tell me. A centerpiece. Somebody said a vase. Somebody said a face. Two faces. You sure it's not a vase? How many see a vase? How many see two faces? Oh. How many of you, as you continue to stare at it, you see both? If you continue to stare at your life, what else would you see in it? If you continue to stare at your life, what else would you see in it? If you continue to stare at your child, what else would you see in him? If you continue to stare at your wife, what else would you see in her? If you continue to stare at your finances, what else would you see in it? If you continue to stare at your talent, what else would you see in it? If you continue to stare at your church, what else would you see in it that you haven't seen before? Because I want to tell you right now, somebody else could take your hand and win with it. Somebody else could play the cards you've been dealt with and they could win with your hand. What do they see in your hand that you don't see? And more importantly, what do they see in you that you don't see in yourself? Because sometimes people have more confidence in you than you have in yourself. Isn't it terrible that you let them see more in you than you see in you? I want to pause just a moment and thank all of my haters. Give me the camera. I want to say how much I appreciate you, because you hated me on a level that I didn't even know I was on. And you hated me so long that I had to go back and stare at myself to see what you saw in me that made you hate me that bad. And I started discovering who I was because you changed my perception. I never knew I was worth the kind of attention you gave me. It was your hating on me that made me go back and stare at myself and say, well, what are they talking about? And I really want to appreciate you, because some kind of way your vehemence with which you fought me made me explore who I was. And I found me because you hated me. Thank you. The antithesis of that is you can meet somebody who loves you more than you love yourself, and you won't receive the love on the level they want to give it because they perceive your value more than you perceive your value. You will sabotage the relationship because you don't feel worthy of being loved like that, and some kind of way you just don't believe them. You just don't believe them. Or maybe you keep giving them things instead of giving them you, because you think the things you give are more valuable than who you are. You need to change your perception. And to all of you who got his or her money and lost them, my money is the cheapest part of me. It is the trash of who I am. You must remember, I made the money. The money didn't make me. So if all you got from me is the cash, you can have the cash, because the cash can't make me. As long as I got me, I can. I wish somebody heard the words that just came out of my. Touch 3 people and say, change your perception. I am fearfully and marvelously made. I am created in the image of God himself. I am created to be creative. That means I can lose everything I got and get it again. Because if I said let there be once, I can say let there be. Somebody's about to be restored. You're going to get back what the cankerworms and the palmer worms and the locusts ate up. Wow. All you got to do is change your perception. Stop walking around moping and glooming and cursing yourself with your attitude, speaking against yourself, shutting down all positivity and rejecting all love because of the issues of your childhood. You're not a little girl anymore. Change your perception. Oh, I wish I had somebody who could really get this.